So I just want to address this comment that I've seen throughout the years, whether it be on other people's stuff or whether it be on my own. I've gotten this comment a couple times, and that's the question of why do you define yourself as a gay or queer filmmaker? Why are you reducing yourself to this one thing? I find this comment to be really funny because if I was a heterosexual filmmaker, that comment would never be asked. They would never say, "Why are you defining yourself through these heterosexual stories?" Yet since the beginning of cinema, heterosexual filmmakers have been doing that. But yet somehow it's reducing yourself when you're talking about queer stuff. You see, people define themselves all the time, especially here on YouTube, whether it be a fitness channel, whether it be a cooking channel, whether it be a fishing channel. These are ways that people have defined themselves, and there's nothing wrong with that. And nobody ever asks of those creators like, why are you reducing yourself to fitness videos? Like, isn't there other aspects of your personality? And it's just it's just funny to me because it's like there's something, and I don't think the question is always posed in a malicious way. There probably is a question that's not rooted in a homophobia or anything like that. It could just be a question of like, why are you just talking about this one aspect of your personality? That's another idea that I want to explore of like, is this where my personality ends? Is just being gay my personality? No, it definitely is not. I like other things that have nothing to do with my sexuality. But to say that it has not defined my personality would be a lie. Because, and whether people like to admit it or not, being gay or being queer, being different than the rest of society does define you in one way or another. Unless you were raised from day one in a very happy and, you could be yourself no matter what. You held this secret for so long. And that does change you, whether or not you know it or not. The way, whenever you meet somebody new, you have this thing about you that changes the way you act, changes the way you behave around certain people. And it defines you. It absolutely does. It makes you see the world in a different way. Which brings me back to why telling and talking about queer films are so important, is that, yes, these ideas are universal. And people like to say, why, in this idealistic way, like, these stories are just human, why don't we just, why do we have to have these labels? Because there's nuance, and there's certain things you'll see in a queer movie that you'll never see in a heterosexual film that are unique to the queer experience. Yes, heterosexual people could watch those and still relate to them in some way, but they're important to be told because there are differences in the story. At the end of the day, it's all human. I'm not trying to say that queer people are some weird animal in a zoo or something like that, but there are differences, and that's why it's important to talk about them and to have distinguishing conversation. There's this really funny quote too about that Bret Easton Ellis, who's the writer of the book American Psycho, and he's a gay person, and he says that these labels. I'm paraphrasing, but he says that these labels are important because when he goes to look up adult material online, he doesn't go and search for corn. He looks for gay corn, and human beings love these categories. And that's why channels like Watch Mojo here on YouTube are so important. Welcome to Watch Mojo. Today we're counting down our top 10 gay corn video because the human mind has evolved to compartmentalize certain things. And there's nothing inherently wrong with it. It just helps people find things. It helps people to understand things sometimes. There's another segment of filmmakers who are gay but don't want to be called gay filmmakers. And I've read interviews where some people have said that they don't want to be pigeonholed as only being, a gay filmmaker. And what do I say to that is that it doesn't matter, because whether you like it or not, you're going to be pigeonholed in one way or another, whether it be you've been labeled a horror filmmaker or a documentary filmmaker or whatever it may be. People are going to find a way to pigeonhole you and to put you in a box of like, oh, you make those types of movies. So I say, if they're going to do that anyways, just embrace it. Embrace being called a gay filmmaker, because you have a unique perspective that the majority of people don't have. I feel like, because you had to go through this adversity growing up in having to hold a secret, having to not experience the things that everyone else got to experience, and use that adversity that you had to experience and use it to your benefit, and being able to show people who might be going through that stuff right now that they're not alone, that you are also out there, that we exist here, and our stories are valid and they're important. I feel no problem with being called a gay filmmaker, and in fact, you should wear it as a badge of honor, um, because you got through it and you can openly talk about being who you are now, in the public. And at one point in my life, I thought that that would never be possible.